Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of the Manifesting Muslim Ramadan series, Aligning with Allah. In today's episode, we are going to start diving into some of the things that you can start doing in a very active way to start aligning more with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, these, by the way, and I need to say this, are not little easy bitty things, okay? All of these things take time. All of these things are a journey, okay? So if you don't get it right, like from the get-go, don't worry, sis. It's a journey. It's you have to grow with it. You have to, learn to lean into it, all of these things. But once we know again what we're aiming for, it becomes easier for us to get there, okay? So today we are going to talk about Tawwakul. And how Tawwakul is one of those elements within Islam that is so helpful when we are trying to build a stronger, healthier connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of this, I want to emphasize, I can't remember what episode number it was, but back in, I think, one of the first ones, I said, it was one of those where I talked about outsourcing your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the number one step will always be to read your Quran. And not just read your Quran in Arabic if you don't speak Arabic or understand Arabic, but read it in a language that you understand, because you need to know what Allah is saying. Even though every translation is a little bit different and the word is not quite, living up to the standard of the Arabic and all of these things, it's important for us to connect with Allah where Allah connected with us first, and that is the Quran, okay? So, and especially for us to read how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes himself. It is very important for us to have a grasp of how Allah speaks about himself. That is where we get to meet Allah truly in many, many, many ways in this dunya. However, reading the Quran in a way that is not just like, oh my God, I'm just reading, Lord of the Rings or whatever, like just getting through a book. It takes time. Okay, it takes time because it's a text that is heavy, it's meaningful, it can strike nerves, it can, sometimes we need to put it aside and then return to it. It can take time for us to get through the Quran, right? So while we're doing that, we don't want to stop everything else at the same time. We want to continue working on other things. Now, that is where everything else that I'm going to be talking about kind of steps in. And all of these things can be done hand in hand. They can be done at the same time. You don't have to be like, I have to finish reading the Quran first, and then I take these other steps. Everything can go combined hand in hand, okay? So I just want to make sure that I emphasize the point that you absolutely should, and if you haven't done so already, go and order yourself a copy of the Quran in whatever language it is that you speak best and understand best. That is where you want to start as well, okay? Everything has to go hand in hand. Okay, and if in case you are, I was going to say, let me just say, because I'm going to stop interrupting myself. If you are looking for something like a Quran in English, I am selling my Quran journal. It is linked everywhere that I link my stuff. That is the one that I'm using. I absolutely love it. It is translated in English by Maulana Wahiduddin Khan. Okay, so no more of that promoing. Let's get back to the topic. Tawwakul. Oh, I love Tawwakul. I love Tawwakul so much. I think probably, obviously, like Islam and being Muslim is my lifestyle number one. But if I had to choose like how you can, I'm keto, I'm this, I'm that, or I'm vegan, or I'm a hippie, or like you can choose like these little side quest type situation lifestyles. Tawwakul is definitely one of my biggest side quest lifestyles. But it's like, Islam is the umbrella, and this is one of those tiny little droplets that run down from that umbrella, but it's just one of the bigger droplets. So Tawwakul is one of my massive, massive lifestyles that I follow in this life, because Tawwakul is perhaps one of the best ways for us to practice what we preach when it comes to our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is where we can actually dive deep into our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Tawwakul, in the most basic sense, is trusting in Allah. But of course, it's so much more than that. It's also having faith in Allah and trusting in Allah and surrendering to Allah. It's so much more. But of course, if we're looking at a broader sense, the general consensus is that tawakkul is trust. Okay, so when we are living in trust in Allah, what does that look like, right? Because this is, if we're choosing tawakkul as a lifestyle, we are now making decisions based on tawakkul. We are making moves based on tawakkul. We are saying yes to things based on tawakkul. We are saying no to things based on tawakkul. And tawakkul in what? Tawakkul in Allah. Tawakkul in Allah always. So that means that everything we do now, again, is anchored in Allah. And it requires very little effort from us in many ways. It's a lifestyle. It's a thought. I don't think about it. It just is. It simply is. And so tawakkul is one of those things that it lives somewhere between effort and surrender. Okay, so what does that mean for us? It means that we take steps, but we don't try and control the outcome. So we take action, but we don't know what the end goal is going to be. But we take the action anyway because why? We trust. We trust in Allah, and we trust that Allah will catch us if we fall. We trust that Allah will guide us when we need it. We trust that Allah will provide when we need it. We trust that Allah will do everything that He can to make us safe, make us protected, give us what we need in times of need, whatever it might be. Everything that we cannot control, Allah will control on our behalf, as long as we are steadfast on our journey and we are aligning everything that we do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, we know very, very, very popular saying, tie your camel first, right? That hadith around the man who came to the Prophet and said, should I tie my camel or should I just leave it and trust it to Allah and trust that it won't wander off? And the Prophet ﷺ said, you tie your camel and then you trust it to Allah. I butcher every single hadith. Like I don't say it, like word for word, by the way. If you're new here, you don't know that. But if you've been here for some time, you know that I will say it, I will ad-lib it. You can go and look them up in your own time. But I just like to keep everything sort of very conversational. So go and look it up if you want to get the correct wording. But it is ultimately, you tie the camel and you trust Allah that the camel's going to stay there in the morning or after you come back or whatever. And that's very much tawakkul. You tie your camel, but you also trust that the camel is going to stay. Because if the camel is not supposed to stay and Allah doesn't want it to stay, something will come and cut the rope. The rope, for whatever reason, the knot you tied wasn't strong enough and the camel managed to go anyway. The tawakkul is, if the camel is supposed to be there tomorrow morning, it will be there, but I will still tie it because I'm going to do my part. Okay? That is tawakkul. So it's somewhere between effort and surrender. I will put the effort that I am able to put in, but then I will surrender everything else to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? It's not passive. It's very active. It's active tawakkul. Take steps and trust in Allah. Take another step and trust in Allah. I don't know what will happen if I do this, but I feel guided towards it, so I'll take that step and then I'll trust that Allah will take it from there, or show me the next step when the time is right, or open the door for me when I get to that point, blah, 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 blah. And the problem for many people today, maybe this has been for a long time, but I've only lived for nearly 40 years. So maybe before 40 years ago, it was the same or not the same. But at least from what I can see today we want certainty. We want to know A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and we want to go down the whole alphabet. And we want to know exactly what happens at each one of those steps. And the thing is, we will never know. We will never know. And this is why tawakkul is such a big player for us in this dunya. Specifically in this dunya, because we like to pretend to ourselves that we can plan ahead for things, that we can know what the outcome will be. If I do this, then this will happen. And listen, 9 times out of 10 you might be right, but that one time Allah's way will stop that from happening, will have an effect, will push you out of that thing that you thought was going to happen. And tawakkul is, I will trust that if I do these things, unless Allah wants different, then that is going to be the outcome. And that is Tawwakul. So we want to make sure that we're taking steps and then surrendering, taking steps and surrendering. Basically, we do with what we have at any given time, and trusting that if anything else needs to be added or removed or enlightened or anything, then Allah will do that as we go. But we don't need to know everything from point A to point B to point C in order for us to move or in order for us to make moves. We do that with full trust that Allah at some point or another will show us what the next step is. And I think for many of us, again, it's hard for us because we want this sort of like certainty. We want to know exactly why we're doing it and how, and it has to make sense for people. And if my mum asks me, why are you doing it? And I'm like, Tawwakul, my mum's going to be like, shut up. Tell me, what are you going to do? When are you going to get married? Where are you going to live? But ultimately, you know, that is I mean, that's how I do it. My mum does get annoyed with me for these things, but she also can't argue against it. But we don't, like, even when we do the best of it, how many times have you seen people in your life, maybe it is you yourself, who, you know, you did everything right, you know, you took the steps and you did, you know, you followed everything, the rule books and everything, and still you didn't get that outcome because Allah didn't want you to get that outcome. It's as simple as that. And the people who didn't follow any of the rules, they just lived on that trust and sort of like just la-di-dying their way through life. And they're the ones who get it, even though they've done nothing to prepare or take any of the necessary steps. And I will say necessary in quote unquote, you know, because none of it is necessary if Allah wants it for you. So Tawwakul is taking action and trusting. Taking action and trusting. It's a relationship between you and Allah. And this is why I'm saying again, it's the connection between you and Allah, because when the connection is there, it's easier for us to take these steps because we trust so fully and so deeply in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it becomes easier for us to take bigger and bigger leaps into the unknown and just kind of like into the unknown. Okay, I'm so sorry. I let my I'm so sorry. Okay, I apologize. Okay, let me just gather myself. I'm so sorry, sis. I'm so sorry. It allows us to take bigger and bigger leaps and to take more risks. And when I say risks, I'm not talking about like stupid risks. Calculated, soul-led, you know, these kind of risks was like, I just feel pulled here and I can't necessarily always explain it. It doesn't make sense, black on white. I shouldn't be doing it, but it makes sense. And you do it and it just makes sense when you've done it. And the stars are just aligning and everything just kind of lines up for you. That becomes easier the more we kind of evolve in that relationship with Allah. But it requires for us to start. I think one of the things that happens, and I see for so many people, especially as I've been working with so many clients in the last sort of 2-3 years of doing manifesting Muslimah, is a lot of people say, I trust Allah. Yeah, of course I've got Tawwakul. Yeah, I trust Allah. But then their lifestyle doesn't show it. They're not living in Tawwakul. You wouldn't know that they trust Allah by the way that they do things, because they're trying to micromanage. They're trying to plan out everything before they make moves. They think they have to know everything before they can take a step or say yes to something. There is never that element of, I feel guided by Allah. I feel pulled towards this thing, or I feel that this is incorrect for me and I trust my intuition. I trust that Allah is giving me my deepest desires, and so I will lean into that and I will make moves in my Tawwakul, in my trust in Allah, and I will have conversations with Allah, because I think this is one of the things that really matters. You know, the Tawwakul is also the communication with Him through dua. Constant communication every single step of the way. Bismillah every time you start and doing something, right? Inshallah every time you want to do something next time, or you're going to start something and say, I'm going to finish that today. Alhamdulillah every time something goes right. In communication with Allah. Allah, I'm so scared, but I'm going to do it anyway because I trust you've got my back. I trust you've got me. I trust you'll be my net if I fall. I trust you'll give me wings to fly. I trust you will do all these things. I trust if this fails, then it's because I was looking in the wrong direction. I trust. That is communication, right? It's reflection, it's reliance. And it's not just a question of saying, oh, Allah's going to handle it for me. Allah will do it for me. No, we're not falling back on that, because I know, like, as someone who was raised very much in a community of like, oh, you know, Allah's going to take care of it. If Allah wants it, he's going to take care of it. And then nobody does anything. Oh my God, it used to infuriate me when I was a kid. I was like, oh, if Allah wants it, and then nobody did anything to make it happen. I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, stop it. You need to also move. You need to make moves. So that's not what we're doing. We're taking moves, we're making actions, and we're communicating with Allah through and through. Not just a little bit. We're constantly in communication with Allah. We're constantly checking our own pulse with this. Does this feel right? Does it feel aligned? Should I take a step back? Am I trying to rush things? Am I trying to decide the outcome? Am I now stepping away from trust and taking too much of a lead in this? Am I allowing my fear to mask itself as tawakkul by saying, oh, no, you got to protect yourself. No, you got to protect yourself. It's a big step, sis. I know it is. I know it's such a big one. And there's so many elements just within Tawwakul alone that we can unfold. But, you know, there's a word, and I can't find it right now. In the essence of Ramadan, that's not what it is. There's a word. Oh my God. Because of the fact that this is a series, I do have to move on to the next episode. Inshallah, we'll get back to more of the talk about Tawwakul in future episodes, but I will leave that here for you now. But I will say one more thing actually before I leave is I want you to ask yourself a question today. Before I end this episode, I want you to ask yourself a question today. Where in your life does your tawakkul show up? Where is tawakkul reflected in your everyday life? And I'm not talking about stepping onto your prayer mat and doing your dhikr. I'm talking about when it comes to you asking Allah for that ambitious goal, for money, for a husband, a bigger house, less stress, this, that, and the other. Where in a goal right now that you keep asking Allah for, or anywhere else in your life, is tawakkul a part of it? How is your lifestyle reflecting tawakkul, and how is tawakkul being reflected in your lifestyle? And if you can't answer that, sis, perhaps it's time for you to start doing something about it. All right, my darling, that is where I'm going to leave you. But inshallah, I will see you in tomorrow's episode. But until then, my darling friend, please don't forget to live in love.